Jiyarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jiyarata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajachanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajachanaranjana Damunatira Vanachari Damunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajachanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajachanaranjana Damunatira Vanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijan Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki Patita Pavana Shri Gauranitai ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we're reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 17, Text 30. Pashyami nanyam purushat puratanad Yasam yuge tvam nanamarga kovidam Aradayasya chasurarshabehitam Manasvino yam grinate pavadrisha Pashyami nanyad purushat puratarad Yasam yugetam nanamarga kovidam Aradayasya chasurarshibehitam Manasvino yam grinate pavadrisha Please chant. Pashyami nanyam purushat puratanat Yasam yugetam nanamarga kovidam Aradayasya tasurarshabehitam Manasvinoyam vinate pavadrisam Pashyami nanyam purushat puratana. Yam samyuge tvam ranamarga kovidam. Aradayesya chashurarsha behitam. Manasmino yam grinat. Vaishnavis. Pashyami nanyam purushat puratana. Yasam yugetam nanamarga kovidam. Aradayesya jasurarsha behitam. Pashyami. I see. Na. Not. Anyam. Other. Purushat. Than the person. Puratanat. Most ancient. Yaha. Who. Sangyuge. In battle. Tvam. To you. Ranamarga. In the tactics of war. Kovidam. Very much skilled. Aradayishyati. Will give satisfaction. Asura Rishabha. O chief of the Asuras. Ihi. Approached. Tam. Him. Manasvinaha. Heroes. Yam. Whom. Grinate. Praise. Bhavadrishaha. Like you. Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. You are so skilled in war that I do not see anyone else but the most ancient person, Lord Vishnu, who can give satisfaction in battle to you. Therefore, O chief of the Asuras, approach him, whom even heroes like you mention with praise. Purport. Aggressive materialistic warriors are actually punished by the Supreme Lord for their policy of unnecessarily disturbing world peace. Therefore, Varuṇa advised Hiraṇyākṣa that the right course to satisfy his fighting spirit would be to seek to fight with Vishnu. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Garamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivashakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhopyane Pacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki. So, humbly seeking all the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, particularly Moksha Lakshmi Mataji. Thank you for being here. One of the absolute legends in Srila Prabhupada's army. So, humbly seeking all your blessings. So here we have Varuṇa speaking. Varuṇa doesn't speak so much in the Bhagavatam, but here he is speaking. And Varuṇa is very intelligent. It's nice. Hiraṇyākṣa has been reading so far, has become severely puffed up by his material strength, and he's creating dominion over all the universe. The demigods himself, he wants to fight with everyone, but the demigods are scared of him. He goes up to the heavenly planets, he can't find anyone. They're hiding, so he dives deep into the water, and he finds Varuṇa, and he starts trying to incite a fight with Varuṇa. He's got this desire to fight, and Varuṇa, he feels a little bit of anger rising. Naturally, when someone comes to your home and starts insulting you, asking for a fight, but Varuṇa, he was a devotee, and therefore using his intelligence, he's able to curb the anger. And then in this verse here, he's actually telling Hiraṇyākṣa that instead of fighting me, actually I'm too old to fight. I don't do fighting anymore. You should go and you should fight Vishnu. And so it's interesting, perhaps the first thing we can learn, see, Bhagavatam is happening on multiple levels. This pastime, this took place. This is a description of a historical event. Hiraṇyākṣa was actually conquering the whole universe and did come face to face with Varuṇa. But also, just as we understand Krishna killing his demons, they also have psychological or symbolical representations as well. Each of the demons represents particular anarthas. And so similarly, Hiraṇyākṣa represents a particular anartha. And the first thing we can learn is we can take shelter of Varuṇa. What does Varuṇa do? Varuṇa is a very powerful entity. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, of all aquatics, I am Varuṇa. He's immensely powerful, but he knows that face to face with Hiraṇyākṣa, he doesn't actually have that much chance. And therefore, what does Varuṇa do? He wisely sends his problem, which is Hiraṇyākṣa, the anartha he's facing, you could say, he lets Vishnu deal with that. So similarly in our life, if we have to conquer over unwanted things, lust, anger, greed, yet by our own strength, you may think, well, simply by the strength of my will, I'm going to overcome lust. That's not how it happens. No one in the history of the world, this universe, has ever overcome lust by the strength of their own will. But when one brings in the transcendental dimension, one brings in Krishna. Vikriditam vrajabadu viradam cha Vishnu, shandan vito nashanayed, ativarnayed, yad bhaktim param bhagavati pratyalabdikamam, hridrogam ashtipa anotacharena diram. It's said simply by hearing about Krishna's pastimes, particularly Krishna's pastimes with the damsels of Braj, then one can conquer over the disease of lust and becomes fixed in bhakti. So Varuṇa, he's conquering over this anartha of Hiraṇyākṣa by letting Vishnu deal with the problem. So we're going to look a little bit today actually what does Hiraṇyākṣa represent? And actually this whole third canto of the Bhagavatam is so systematically actually destroying this particular anartha. It's described that we hear Śrīmad Sukata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hrityantastoya Bhadrani. We do notice the Hutsatam that by giving oral reception to this Bhagavatam, all the unwanted things in the heart, these anarthas, become removed. And there's a whole science behind how that is happening. And so, if we look at Hiraṇyākṣa, even his name sort of gives him away a little bit. Hiraṇyākṣa, golden eyes. There's a James Bond baddie known as Goldfinger. Similar sort of concept. As soon as you hear his name, you know he's probably not going to be the good guy. As a similarly, Hiraṇyākṣa, golden eyes means he's always looking for gold, meaning how he can enjoy material opulence. In any situation, that's his modus operandi. And if we can look how Hiraṇyākṣa appeared, Hiraṇyākṣa is the result of an offense. See, Diti has a desire to enjoy with her husband. That desire itself there's nothing wrong with that desire. But what's wrong in this pastime is that Diti then tries to engage in that desire in a way which is against the principles of Shastra, against the principles laid down for the advancement of civilization, against her better judgment and against the judgment and the instructions of her husband. Then Diti induces her husband and they have sexual intercourse at an inauspicious time when Lord Shiva is out doing his thing. And therefore, as a result of this, she has two children, Hiraṇyākṣa and Hiraṇyakashipu, who are not the most auspicious children. So we see here Diti, her desire to enjoy, which itself, we should understand that desire is not necessarily wrong. But when that desire overcomes her understanding that this world is actually meant for the elevation of our consciousness, this world is actually meant ultimately for Krishna's pleasure, this world is not here for my own enjoyment. Because she lost that misunderstanding by the strength of that desire, it overcame all these rules and regulations which are there for our benefit. And as a result, Hiraṇyākṣa is there. And Hiraṇyākṣa, he personifies this constant greed to exploit the material energy. And this anartha represents the scientific understanding of the world. You should understand, for instance, Srila Prabhupada would be very, very heavy against rascal scientists. What Prabhupada is actually defeating, this particular mindset, this is not something new which has arisen in the 20th century or the last few hundred years. Actually, no. We understand the more and more we delve into Bhagavatam that there's nothing new under the sun. All these different anarthas, these different problems, it's the same things coming again and again and again. And so this scientific mentality, this mentality whereby I can view, understand, and therefore enjoy the material energy separate from Krishna. This is the anartha which Hiraṇyākṣa represents. What does that mean? It means that, see, it's not just atheistic scientists and theistic scientists. It's not that some scientists believe in God and will study the world, and other scientists don't believe in God and study the world. Actually, in comparison to the philosophy of the Bhagavatam, then anyone who thinks that material nature can be studied independent of understanding the source, then they're in illusion. And this is really one of the essential points which Bhagavatam is teaching. Bhagavatam, Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva, Idam hi Vishwan Bhagavan Ivetara, that Vishwan, this entire cosmos, is Bhagavan. And this is the philosophy of the Bhagavatam, that there's actually, as Prabhupada writes in Ishopanishad, there is nothing but God within and without. And so by the idea that we can understand this material energy, we can understand our own situation, understand our own minds, understand our own desires, separate from understanding Krishna. The fundamental reason behind this is because if I can understand this world separate from Krishna, it means I can exploit this world. And so this viewpoint is actually prominent. It's prominent within some of it's described the 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. So some of them also have this particular viewpoint, and also we see in different traditions. Some traditions describe God has given us this world to enjoy. God has given us dominion over this world. That means I've got to kill animals to enjoy them. God has given me that right. I can see this world. I can believe in God. Me and God have a nice relationship, but this world is something He has given me to enjoy, and it's separate from Him. This is the anartha. And what Bhagavatam is teaching again and again and again. In the first 2 cantos, or first 3 cantos, the process of creation is, I think, described about 7 times. Like Parikshit Maharaj, he is very educated. Parikshit Maharaj, he had probably the best schooling and the best education of anyone on the planet. You know, like, how qualified are his entire dynasty. And all the whole sort of fate of his entire dynasty lies on him. He's the only one remaining from the descendants of Kuru. He probably got a pretty good education, meaning he knew how creation took place. But Shukadeva Goswami is explaining it, of course, for our benefit, but also Shukadeva Goswami is explaining it because the understanding of creation in the Bhagavatam is where every single step Krishna is involved. At every single step. Similarly, the beginning of the second canto, when Parikshit Maharaj says, how am I supposed to focus on the Lord? You're telling me I've got to hear about the Lord and remember Him, but how am I supposed to do it? And so Shukadev, he gives them this whole universal form. And we always say, well, the universal form, that's for people who can't understand the personal concept of God. But actually what the universal form is showing is how every single, if you read it, it's in the first chapter of the second canto, anything in this material world, whether it's all the planetary systems, whether it's different species, whether it's mental concepts, whether it's qualities, whether anything, literally anything, is part of the body of the Lord. And this is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means when we can see everything in relationship to the Lord. And if anything isn't in relationship with the Lord, Ritayartamya pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatabaso tatatamaha. Anything which we can see and we cannot see Krishna in that thing. If we think it's separate from Krishna, what is that? Tadvidyadatmano mayam. That is Maya. If we cannot see Krishna in anything, the smallest little thing, and we think it's separate from Krishna, that is Maya. And therefore Hiraṇyākṣa, he represents this mentality whereby we can see something separate from Krishna because we have this enjoyment mentality. And therefore as soon as we see something as separate from Krishna, it means therefore I can enjoy. But we understand Bhaktarad yagya tapasam, Krishna is the enjoyer. So then the beautiful thing is, we all know who kills Hiraṇyākṣa. Yeah, who kills Hiraṇyākṣa? Varahadev. And actually, who is Varahadev? Of course, incarnation of Krishna. But we actually understand the few verses previously. Varahadev is worshipped as a personification of yagya. Very beautiful verses describing, I forget the details, but his eyes are like the ghee and the hairs of his body are like the utensils that are used for offering. And every single aspect of his body actually is part of yagya. And any time that sages or anyone's referring to Varahadev, he's always Yagyapati or Yagyeshwara, or he's always the controller of yagya. And so what is this showing us? It's showing us that the way to counteract this exploitative, scientific, materialistic mentality, which we have to understand is in us, the way to counteract that is yagya. And yagya is a process of... Yagya is such an incredible thing, actually. There's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Sahi yagya praja shushta puruvacha pradapati anena prasavidyadam eshavoshtishta kamaduk. That the Lord of all creatures, when he was initially creating, he sent forth generations of men and demigods saying, be thou happy by this yagya, by this sacrifice. Because yagya, what does it do? It gives you everything necessary for a prosperous life here, as well as liberation. See, Bhagavatam is not telling us you cannot be prosperous. You have to just completely renounce everything. Bhagavatam is actually teaching how you can actually enjoy in the world in the way which you're supposed to. Not become entangled and then go back to Krishna. And the way you do it is yagya. What does yagya mean? Yagya means to know that everything is Krishna's. And therefore, what is it for? Everything should be offered to Krishna. Everything's for Krishna's enjoyment. This is the mentality of yagya. And of course, in this age, we practice Sankirtan yagya. What does Sankirtan mean? Sankirtan means a congregational glorification of Krishna. We come together and we glorify Krishna. And how is this yagya? It's yagya in many ways. Ultimately, it's pleasing to the Yagyeshwara, to the Yagya Purush, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by this Sankirtan Yagya, you're offering your very heart to Krishna. And if you offer your heart to Krishna, then everything else follows. Then your mind follows. Then your possessions follow. Then your activities follow. So everything becomes yagya. And so, it's very beautiful that this third canto Bhagavatam is so systematic. We understand it, that what actually takes place, the pastimes which takes place, they're not random. Shukadeva Goswami is not just thinking, oh, remember that story. Oh, this was good. Oh, let's talk about that. No, everything is so systematic and clear for the purpose of annihilating all these unwanted things in the heart, so that we can come to that position of understanding who we are and who is Krishna and what's the relationship. And therefore later in this canto, we had the pastime of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. And it's directly in complete counterpoint to the pastime of Diti and Kashyapa. Because when Devahuti gets married to Kardama Muni, she also has desires for a child. Her desire is none different from Diti. Both of them have desire, and the desire itself, Bhagavatam never condemns the desire. But we see Diti, she engages in that desire in an unregulated way, in an exploitative way, in a way against the injunctions of Shastra. But Devahuti, she engages in that same desire in the way prescribed by Shastra. She engages in that desire in a form of yagya. She lovingly serves her devotee husband. Her husband is a great sage, and therefore she lovingly, devotedly serves him. And what's the result? She enjoys incredible prosperity. You know, she's got a floating castle. You know, it's the best honeymoon you could ever imagine. Then she gets 9 beautiful daughters who are all empowered, and then finally Lord Kapiladev comes. Lord Kapiladev, the Lord personally, comes as her son. And of course we understand Lord Kapiladev, he's then teaching Sankhya Yoga. And Sankhya Yoga is the ultimate theistic science, whereby every single thing can be seen in relationship with the Lord. See, reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a means by which we can eradicate all these misconceptions. It's a means by which we become fully conscious of Krishna. So therefore it's described, Shunvata Shradaya Nitya. We should hear about Krishna, particularly for those of us who are materially contaminated. Lord Brahma mentions to Narada Muni that Maya Atma Namuyati. If you do not want to be bewildered by Maya, if you do not want to be bewildered by Maya, then Shunvata Shradaya Nitya. Constantly, Nitya, you have to hear about Krishna. You have to hear about the Lord and His interaction with His energies. And you have to hear Shradaya with faith, meaning free from false ego. Then all these misconceptions will become eradicated. So thank you for your kind attention. If anyone's got any questions, corrections, reflections, comments. Yes, for an avatar. Back to Damodar Maharaj.
He was defending Darwin, you know, we came from apes. He said, you rascal, your grandparents are apes, and my grandparents are kings and queens. It was.
Yeah. Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj was one time giving class. Still remember he said, my great grandfather is Mahavishnu. I like that. Yeah. So, thank you, Rupa. Anything else? Okay. Jai, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Varahadev ki, Shri Balaram ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Pancha Tattva Prabhu ki. There's 17:30.